Welcome to Detective Diaries, brought to you by Private Detective and Search Investigation. If you are captivated by the art of deduction, the thrill of solving the unsolvable, or the enigmatic world of private investigation, you have just found your new favorite podcast. Detective Diaries are where secrets are unraveled and the truth is always a clue away. Presented by Private Detective and Search Investigation, each episode contains offbeat conversations about the real people involved in investigation. Enjoy.
Detective Diaries. We are back with an interview I have both looked forward to, but I have to say had some apprehension about, but a little bit more of that later. We endeavour to bring you these episodes with subjects surrounding private and other investigation and the worlds and history of our profession. Today is a slight diversion. I have with me Eli Murton of Guildford Shakespeare Company. A natural question is, how does private investigation link to Shakespeare? And again, I'll tell you the answer to that in a few minutes. I shall let Eli tell you all about GSC, Guildford Shakespeare Company. However, as a quick synopsis, the company is an award-winning theatre company for 20 years. Rather than relying on traditional theatres, GSC performs in unique and very site-specific venues. Remember that phrase. Using locations such as churches, parks, castles, and even historic streets. And they don't religiously stick to Shakespeare. I was enthralled by Frankenstein and the unique adaptation of Mary Shelley's novel, and been to murder mystery evenings in atmospheric venues, most notable on a Boeing 747. Even Romeo and Juliet was performed in a historic street with a couple on an authentic 17th century balcony. But what's the link to investigation? I did promise you the answer. Two things: those murder mystery evenings, the brainchild of my guest, Eli, and another. For our corporate sponsorship this year, we've been pleased to be invited to sponsor GSC's production of David Copperfield in the German Street Theatre in London, in Guildford in Surrey, and other towns. But our motivation for doing that is their outreach and education department, who work with some 24,000 engagement opportunities in projects ranging from primary after-school clubs to programmes for families with teenagers living with mental health challenges and young carers. And Eli will tell us much, much more about that. But before I hand you over to her and thoroughly interrogate her, I really should mention Brian Blessed, with whom I have been enthralled since I first heard his raucous laugh and cry of "Who wants to live forever?" in the film Flash Gordon. This icon of stage and film said of GSC, "This company is nothing short of miraculous, a beacon for the arts." High praise indeed. Eli, welcome to Detective Diaries.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Please tell our audience about Guildford Shakespeare Company better than I can, because I've only briefly touched on it.
So Guildford Shakespeare Company was founded in 2006 by Sarah Gobran and Matt Pinchers. So Sarah had done an advert and had some cash from that, some payment from that advert, and the choice was between going to an elephant sanctuary or putting on an open air production of a Shakespeare play in Guildford. She'd been auditioning for a lot of open airs, and she was like, why doesn't Guildford have an open air Shakespeare company? So she created one. They created one together, and they put on Much Ado About Nothing in 2006. And that marked the birth of Guildford Shakespeare Company, and that was put on at the Castle Gardens, which are absolutely stunning, right in the heart of Guildford. And that became the sort of the blueprint for Guildford Shakespeare Company. So we, as a company, show off the best of Guildford. It's about very much embedding ourselves in the community and becoming part of the community, and that has continued with with all of the various venues that we visit. So we go into, in February, we go into Holy Trinity Church, which is this stunning Georgian church at the top of the High Street in Guildford, opposite the Abbots Hospital. So you've got these two mighty historic buildings sort of crowning the top of the cobbled High Street. And so we perform there in the winter. In the summer, we have our open air season, which you talked about, the Romeo, when we took over Guildford High Street with Romeo and Juliet. And we did indeed take over the High Street. We closed the top section of the High Street. We performed outside Holy Trinity. We performed inside the courtyard of the Abbots Hospital, which is completely beautiful, and a lot of people, you can go and visit it, but a lot of people don't realise that you can. We went into the famous Tunsgate Arches. We did indeed have Juliet's balcony, which was completely beautiful. Having Juliet on the Guildhall balcony, having Romeo standing on the big pillars of Tunsgate, performing the balcony scene was just, it was just delightful. And then we went into Tunsgate Shopping Centre, where there was a campaign rally, and our community chorus danced to Come On Eileen, which was just amazing to see. Everyone suddenly becomes super involved whenever you play Come On Eileen, and it was just brilliant. The atmosphere was amazing. And then we took the audience to the Castle Gardens, where we performed the second half of the show. We basically took in all the landmarks within walking distance, or reasonable walking distance when you're trailing an audience of 180.
So going back to the beginnings, I mean, this is bringing Shakespeare alive.
It is. It's about bringing...
Short of being in the Globe, it's how...
It's bringing Shakespeare to the community. So, Shakespeare plays, and plays are for the whole community. People tend to sort of think of Shakespeare as quite highbrow, but, he was a populist writer. He was writing for people. He was writing for the groundlings that, were paying their penny to get in and watch a play or listen to a play. And right up to the sort of elites of society. He was playing to the whole, what's the word? Not demographic, the whole, I've lost the word. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. The whole, right across society. And that's what people realise, I think, when they come and see our shows. They sort of go, oh no, this is for me. Oh, I do understand. It's about the human condition. It's about human beings and the various different ways that we navigate our way through life.
Everyone has a missing piece of their story, a lost connection, a name whispered in a family secret, a debt owed. Where do they go? The debtors who vanish overnight. The birth parents you long to meet, the missing loved ones whose absence leaves a void. Listen to our tracing episode on Detective Diaries and uncover the methods, the mysteries, and the sheer persistence it takes to find the seemingly unfindable. From adoption tracing to tracking down essential witnesses and missing persons, I shall bring you stories of closure.
And I love that a lot of the directors that we work with, I love that they are able to see that the journey that a character is going on, and bring it into the types of journeys that people are facing today. So in 2017, I think it was 2017, we did, or it might be 20, I can't get the date right, but we did a performance of Measure for Measure, which hit right at the point that the Me Too movement was sort of reaching its peak. And Measure for Measure has that completely crushing line of, who will believe thee, Isabel? to the character who has been sexually assaulted or sexually propositioned and is now being blackmailed. And we played the first half with a woman as the sexual predator, and then we played the whole play in the first half, and then in the second half we did a complete gender swap. We played the play again, but with a man as the sexual aggressor, and hearing the audience hear that line was quite spectacular, and also observing that when it was a woman saying it, you literally felt there was a ripple of people being forced to question their own reactions.
Yeah.
You know, both of them are totally unacceptable, but when you're forced to sort of, you hold that mirror up to, which is what, you know, a lot of excellent theatre does. It holds a mirror up to society and says, just have a look at how do you feel about what took place.
So Shakespeare's resonating over
it
full
resonates over, you know, when you go,
times.
that was written 400 years ago, and sadly it's still happening today. But when you look at other plays, when you look at Romeo and Juliet, and you know, you see the fact that he's tapped into this teenage, the fizziness and the just the way that you get completely overwhelmed and carried away as a teenager, where it's all consuming. And it is, I mean, with Romeo and Juliet, obviously it becomes life or death, but it also taps into that feeling of everything is all or nothing. And the fact that, you know, he as a grown-up man could write the sort of the effervescence and the deep passion of Juliet, and tap into that. And I think you find that across the plays. You find it with the politics, the fact that, you know, disappointingly, the politics hasn't changed. I think every time, I mean, I one of my roles is front of house manager, and so I get a lot of direct audience feedback, and having, you know, people just come up to me and go, oh my goodness, it's still happening now, or oh my goodness, he's writing, but he could be writing now. You know, this is happening, this is still happening today, or I feel that, and I completely see why that character, and you're just like, yeah, because he's writing about the human condition, and ultimately.
Okay, so tell me something. This is a bit off the cuff. I'm just thinking back to when I did my English A-level. Yeah, English literature A-level. And I think we did 2 Shakespeare plays, a couple of choices. One was Much Ado About Nothing, and the other one was King Lear. Yeah, Brian Blessed's role as GSC. And I can remember Much Ado About Nothing. It really just did not float my boat, and I just coasted through the lessons. And then suddenly King Lear. I mean, I can still quote it now. You know, and the fantastic. Why is that? Why does one aspect of Shakespeare not trigger and another one does?
I think when you're reading it, I think when you're studying it, I think that plays a huge role. Because I did Antony and Cleopatra when I was at school for my A-level, and just really was nonplussed by it. And then I saw it and was completely blown away. I think also different elements. I mean, you look at Much Ado and you look at King Lear, and they're completely different beasts. They are, you know, the emotional journeys that the characters go on are completely different. So I think that's what's wonderful about Shakespeare. He didn't just write a genre. He was writing, you know, you had the histories, which were highly political, and you had the tragedies, and then you had the comedies, which, you know, had the, I mean, with Much Ado, the wit and the, you know, I just love the, you know, the sort of the verbal sparring that takes place. But I think if you just read it, and, you know, another part of my job is going into schools and getting Shakespeare up on its feet in front of students so they can hear the lines read by professional actors, and they can see the scenes being performed as opposed to just reading them. And I think I find it hard, and I know that a lot of actors find it hard when you're just sat reading Shakespeare, but getting it up on its feet, and getting that performance element to it, and starting to sort of look into those lines. And certainly for students, I think it just gives them a different way in. And I think when you go and see a performance and you hear a performance, it just gives you so much more. And I think we all identify, and I think it depends on how you're feeling as well, as to what's going to resonate more with you. If you're seeing King Lear is so dramatic and dark, and the sort of the politics, really, you really lock into that. Whereas Much Ado will leave you feeling in a completely different way, because it's got that patter to it.
I get it. I want to hear more about education and outreach in just a moment or two.
Get involved. Detective Diaries is interactive, which involves you, the listener. Do you have a case you'd like discussed? A burning question about investigative life? Send an email to podcast@private-detectives.co.uk or reach out via social media. You may hear your story featured in an upcoming episode. Don't forget to leave your contact details.
Ellie, GSC's Education and Outreach Department, I know you serve thousands of students and you conduct projects on social inclusion, on well-being, but beyond the main productions, what does GSC's educational outreach actually look like, and how does it impact on the local community?
So there's now 4 of us in the Education and Outreach Department. And we have various different projects running across the year that are, some are led in-house. So some are led by me or Rob Can or Jemima Solway, who was sort of the in-house facilitators. And a lot, because that's the only 3, a lot are led by external facilitators and teams of actors that we send out. Like, we're currently doing a schools tour, so to try and hit all of them, we currently have 2 big projects on the go. Our first project is a pilot 8-week program called Put Up Your Swords, which is a knife crime prevention program, and that is an 8-week course that is taking place in 5 schools across the area, and it is in connection with the Cayenne Prince Foundation, Charlie's Promise, Fearless, Crime Stoppers, the University of Law. I think I've got them all in there. So the students, they're Year 9 students, so Jack Whittam and Rob Can are the facilitators, and they are going in to schools and looking at Romeo and Juliet, specifically the scene where Tybalt murders Mercutio and then Romeo murders Tybalt. And so we're looking at that scene, and they look at that scene and create their own version of it, and they've worked with a fight coordinator to bring that text to life. They have also had talks from Dr. Mark Prince from the Cayenne Prince Foundation, who lost his son to knife crime 18 years ago. They've had a talk from Martin Kosser, who lost his son Charlie, he's of Charlie's Promise, and he lost his son Charlie, I think 18 months ago, due to knife crime. They go into the University of Law, where Dr. Katie Peters has set up a courtroom, a court of the future, and also a crime scene. So they get to put Romeo on trial, and they also get to see the process of a trial and the legal ramifications and you know how it affects the reach of knife crime doesn't just affect those immediately involved, how the ripples go out, and then it culminates in a performance of the Romeo and Juliet scene. So they're getting that sort of 8-week long contact, and they're getting input from some significant people who are talking from both personal experience and professional experience, to try and catch them at an age where, you know, they're at year 9 is sort of 13, 14. They're going to be going out to be doing more, you know, becoming more independent. And you want to arm these kids with the knowledge that, you know, within any crime, knife crime incident, there are usually multiple occasions where things could have been redirected and it could have ended up in a different, you know, the outcome could have been so much less horrific. And so these students are being shown that, and they're being given the information to change outcomes and to, you know, to know where to report to and how to sort of de-escalate at a point where they are becoming more independent. And so that's an incredibly impactful project, and we're hoping that that will be able to go on to be taken further, certainly repeated, and broaden the reach. We also have a schools tour which goes out once a year, to our secondary schools tour, which goes around secondary schools in the area, performing Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth, which are the 2 GCSE texts. They also have follow-up workshops. So we have a team of 4 actors who are absolutely fantastic, and they have a cut-down version of Romeo and Juliet or Macbeth that they perform with full sort of lights and production.
Yeah, you mentioned Charlie's Promise, Martin Cotter, who I did know about. I have never heard anybody speak with such passion.
Oh my goodness, it's raw, and you see the impact land on these kids. And I remember the first time I saw it, you almost want to protect the kids hearing it. You almost want to go, I don't know whether you should be hearing it, and then you're like, no, they need to hear this, and they need to, and it needs to be as impactful as it's being. I mean, having Martin and having Dr. Mark Prince, 2 are completely different speakers, and both are so impactful. And Mark, you know, these kids are completely locked in, and same with Martin. I think it's so important that they're hearing those stories firsthand, and you can see it land, and you just think, you know, that's the sort of talk that is going to change lives, that is going to sort of stay with them, and the mood going in and the mood coming out. Obviously, you know, you have a lot of kids that are really distressed by it, and you think, well, because it's really distressing, because it's literal life and death.
This is your reality.
Yeah, and it is, you know, you are facing something that is completely horrific.
So going back, I'm just connecting the whole Shakespeare and what you talk about Shakespeare being classless and approaching all stratas of society, and there you are with community and education projects. It's a bit naughty of me to mention this, but I'm told that on a previous schools tour, actors were noting the students laughing at
they do.
deaths.
They do, because they're teenagers, but also Shakespeare deals with some big emotions, massive emotions, and any kind of heightened emotion. For a lot of us, when we feel uncomfortable, we will giggle, and it's that, you know, laughing at a funeral, which is obviously, you know, laughter and any high emotion, they're so close.
Well, the wake at a funeral can be a big part.
Can be a huge part, and it's part of that release. And so, yeah, you get students that there'll be a dramatic death and they will giggle. And you kind of want to allow that to happen. It's the same when there's a kiss. If there's a kiss, you will have giggling, and it's absolutely fine, because it's, you know, teenagers are at that point where they are, their empathy, you know, we know that empathy in a lot of teams has been diminished because they're doing such a huge grow, and so they're feeling really, really self-conscious, and nobody likes to feel self-conscious, and so humor is a really great diffuser. And so if we're all feeling self-conscious, we're all feeling a little bit emotionally exposed, and then someone either does a dramatic death or a death on stage, or there's a murder on stage, or there's a kiss on stage, then it's got to come out, and there will be a giggle, and you just allow that to take place, because it means they're connecting, it means they're watching, it means they're engaged, and it's not the type of engagement that, you know, we don't get, as actors, we don't get to declare how a play is received, how anything is received. You know, we have when you're in the rehearsal process, the play is very much within that room, and it belongs to the actors.
Sure.
And it belongs to the director, and it belongs to the creatives. But as soon as you put it in front of an audience, it belongs to the audience. You get to deliver it in a way that you have been directed to, and that you've worked on, and that you're happy with. But you don't get to say how someone takes that away. And whether you're delivering that play and performing that play to a group of teenagers who are, you know, who have been dragged in off a playground, just having had lunch and stuffed themselves full of cheesy chips and are feeling a little bit, or it's first thing in the morning, or whether it's an evening performance, and, you know, you've got paying punters who have come along and who are really invested in the company. You don't get to say how they take it. It becomes theirs. And that I love. So for me, any kind of engagement, if they're giggling, generally they've watched something that's affected them.
Something that's caused the spark.
Something that's caused a spark, and you just crack on, and it's your job to continue. You know, we all have our jobs. Their job is to hear it and listen and receive, and our job is to perform it to our best ability. So you just plow on.
Hola, yo soy James Lupton, intérprete y traductor. Escúcheme en el podcast Detective Diaries, hablando de mis experiencias laborales desde la alta corte inglesa al campo colombiano. Hi, I'm James Lupton, interpreter and translator. Come and listen to me on Detective Diaries, talking about my experiences working from the English High Court to the Colombian countryside.
Ellie, I'm either going to embarrass you or I'm going to do you a small favour, but I'm going to remind you of a line that you told me, which you said you can never use. I can explain it to you, but I cannot possibly help you understand.
Yeah, I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. I'm not allowed to use that line.
No, we don't say that.
No, we're not allowed to say that. But yeah, but it's true. But it does. You know, I can give my bit. And that comes with all of the education stuff that we do. I'll give you my bit. What you do with it is going to be, that's I heard this in another podcast. That's your social, what's it called? It's not your social responsibility, but that's your responsibility. I bring my responsibility, and my administration. That's yours.
Part of the contract.
Yeah, that's also part of the social contract.
David Copperfield. The production opens 20th November? Yep. Okay, its press night is the 25th, I think. So, David Copperfield, have you become the Guildford Dickens company?
Well, we did a version of Pride and Prejudice, which was created by the same team, Sarah Gobran, Matt Pinchers, and Abigail Pickard Price, and the adaptation was so beautiful. It ran last year in 2024, and then it actually ran this year again. It was back by popular demand, and so they started looking at other novels that could be adapted in a similar way, and David Copperfield was brought out very, very early on, and it's that big story, but it's a story about normal growing up in a completely different time period, but it's a game being done by 3 actors, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it. I'm so excited to see this one because again, it's a huge. I mean, it's a longer time period. Mm-hmm. With Pride and Prejudice, it takes place over a relatively short period of time, but David Copperfield goes right from his childhood to his adult years. So yeah, we for a long while we've been doing adaptations. I think the first one I did was Alice in Wonderland, but we've been doing. Oh no, the first one I did was Wind in the Willows in 2015, which was absolutely. It was done at Watts Gallery, and it was delightful. That's the word I would use. Everyone just left completely delighted and enchanted. So we've been doing adaptations for a long while, and I think it's important that that the storytelling that we do isn't just limited to Shakespeare. Obviously, it's rooted in Shakespeare, but it's still rooted in that ethos of telling stories. And that's one thing that I'm really proud of as a company, that the stories that we tell, there's always a reason behind them. And so it's our 20th birthday next year, and we're telling a coming of age story. Fantastic. And and I think that's, there is always that resonance, and I think that's what we're known for is storytelling, powerful storytelling.
So David Copperfield opens in the German Street Theatre in London, which is a fantastic theatre.
Yeah, just off Piccadilly.
It is a joy.
It is an absolute joy.
And then, Ipswich, Windsor, and then comes to Guildford in February?
It does. It comes to Guildford on the 7th of February.
Where's it being performed?
At the Holy Trinity Church. So that beautiful Georgian church.
So why
at the
a church,
top of
not
High
a
Street.
theatre like in London?
So you don't tend to find us in theatres. It's only a relatively new thing that you found us in theatres. Being site responsive means that, first of all, we get to work in the most unusual and stunning places, but you're getting to bring people into that space and showing it off in a completely different way. So we don't go into a non-theatre space and mask it all off and make it a theatre. Mm-hmm. We never shy away from the fact that we're in a church. Frankenstein, for example, you use it. And it becomes a part of the play. It becomes the extra person on stage because it brings that venue to life in a different way. And to see, for example, Holy Trinity Church has been home to Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, Pride and Prejudice, all of which you would see in this. In Pride and Prejudice, it lent that Georgian or Regency authenticity and ornateness,
just creating the atmosphere.
Yeah, in Hamlet, it lent the religious overtones which are prevalent throughout Hamlet. We used the organ. We had an amazing actor who was a completely mind-blowing musician who would play on the organ, on the church organ. And so hearing that, you just go, absolutely 100% yes. But it's very similar when it comes to, the open air. We performed Midsummer Night's Dream in Racks Close, which is a nature reserve. It used to be a chalk quarry, so you've got various levels that have been carved away, which Sarah and I saw, and we were like, stages. it's a nightmare to work in. You have to take a generator. There are absolutely, we have to bring everything in, but it's such a magical venue, and to watch the audience follow the lovers as they escape into the woods is, has to be a huge highlight of mine. Similarly, when we did Robin Hood there, having like a rope bridge, it's, we get to go into these amazing spaces, which are already amazing in their own right. And then we create magic, and then we bring people into that space. And there are so many people that will step into, for example, Rax Close or Holy Trinity Church, and go, oh my goodness, I've lived here for years and I've never been inside. And it's bringing people in, and it's elevating the community, and it's bringing people into our community, and embedding the arts within it.
Ellie, guess what? We've spoken so much. Actually, we're out of time, but there's so much I want to hear. Will you come back and tell us more?
I absolutely
want to hear
will.
about murder mystery, the whole thing. Thank you for your time today. And for anybody listening, don't go away, because we've got a competition which is a bit of a diversion from normal, and it will give you the chance to be involved with GSC, Guildford Shakespeare Company. Detective Diaries is designed to be interactive, and we want to hear from you. Send us an idea for a podcast. It needs to have a link to investigative work, of course, or a guest you'd like to hear interviewed, or even whether you would like to appear yourself. You can send your thoughts by email to podcast@private-detectives.co.uk. The email address, if you haven't heard it, is in the show notes. The best entry will receive 2 tickets with our compliments and be our guest for the evening at Guildford Shakespeare Company's production of David Copperfield, and you may well find yourself interviewed.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast, brought to you by Answers Investigation and UK Fingerprint. If you've enjoyed our conversation and want to learn more about the fascinating world of investigations, be sure to check out Private Detectives Answers Investigation. Their experienced team offers a wide range of discreet and professional services, helping you find the answers you need with integrity and expertise. If you're interested in fingerprint analysis or require specialist fingerprint services, don't miss UK Fingerprint. As one of the leading fingerprint companies in the UK, they provide everything from identification to background checks, working with individuals, businesses, financial institutions, and gambling companies. To find out more, visit www.private-detectives.co.uk, that's a minus sign, and www.ukfingerprint.co.uk. These are your go-to resources for investigative solutions and fingerprint expertise. You can call their office on 020 7158 0332. Thanks once again for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking the truth.